Thank you so much for having me yet again. So first I just want to start off by letting you guys know that nursing is something that I have always wanted to do. As a child, when my teachers asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I always said, I want to be a rich and famous singer. And when that doesn't work out, I'll go to nursing. So nursing is just something that has always been in the back of my mind, something that I wanted to do. But coming from being raised in 5 foster care homes and born to a mother who is drug addicted and alcohol addicted and a father who is very verbally, emotionally, and physically abusive, there were many reasons why I felt becoming a nurse was unattainable for me. After my 5 foster care homes, my sister and I, when we were placed with our biological father, we had made a pact that we would no longer tell anyone of any of the abuse that happened in our father's home, because 4 out of the 5 foster care homes we were in were abusive too. And we were told when we left our last foster home that if we found ourselves in another foster care home, we would be adopted out. And we would rather face the abuse of our father than the abuse of a stranger. And so we kept ourselves silent for many years. I faced many challenges growing up, one of them being when I told my teachers that I wanted to be a nurse, they said, we think that you've set your standards a little too high and you need to bring them down a bit, because statistically speaking, I wouldn't be able to reach my goals. I had a teacher stand in front of the entire classroom after taking my first CPR class, and he gave everyone their certificates, and then he stood in front of the class and he said, Leora, I want you to do me a favor. If I collapse in the front of this classroom of a heart attack, I want you to leave me alone, because at least then I'll stand a 50-50 chance of survival. So getting a career in the medical field was unattainable for me. And so rather than continuing on in life and having a cycle of success, I followed down the same cycle that my parents followed down. At 14 years old, I was addicted to cigarettes and smoking a pack a day. I started drinking and smoking pot. By the time I was 15, I had a baby, and at 16, I married my child's father. I jumped from the pan into the fire because that was also an abusive relationship, but I got out fairly quickly. Having a history of that, I decided I'd had enough, and at 18 years old, I was divorced. From 19 to 23, I lived homeless, and I got by, you know, sleeping bed to bed wherever I could get for the night. At 21, I found myself in the driveway of a homeless shelter after a 30-day cocaine binge, slashing at my wrist with a dull pocket blade for an hour. And that's when I was sent to a mental health facility, and I met this nurse. And she's so significant to my story because she didn't let me hide behind my own excuses anymore. I had lots of excuses for why I was where I was at that moment. And that was her first question to me. What is so bad about your life that you're sitting here with bandages around your wrist? And I gave her every excuse I could give, every sob story I had. I told her about my past, my childhood, the foster cares, the abuse, the cycles. And she said to me, she said, how old were you when you moved out of your parents' house again? And I said, I was 16. And she says, okay. She's like, you know, you can't change everything that happened to you in the past, but you can change how you let it affect you. And she said, sorry, I lost my spot. She said, you can change how you let it affect you. And she said, every decision that you have made from the time that you were 16 years old to today has put you where you are. You're here because of your decisions, not because of your dad's, not because of your mom's, not because of anybody else's, but because of yours. And at first, I lashed out at her and I was angry with her, but she's the one that helped me begin to understand that I did have power over my own life and power to make my own decisions to change the path that I was on. And so from that moment on, my entire life became about what I needed to do to get to the end goal that I wanted to have. And so every relationship I developed from that moment on, every decision I made, every program I entered into was about, is this going to take me closer to my goals or away from my goals? Obviously, if the answer was away, then I left that relationship. I walked away from that choice, and I made a different choice, a choice that would take me towards my goals. I was 23 years old when I met my husband. And to that point, I had finally gotten my GED, which was the first thing I had actually accomplished in life. I ended up getting my GED 4 years after quitting high school and graduated in the top 3% of the nation of traditional high school graduates. And I didn't take a refresher course. So that finally started building up my confidence and self-esteem to believe that I was capable of doing something else. So my husband and I moved to the Big Rapids area, and that's when I first became involved with a welfare reform program. And that's when I learned how to write a cover letter, a resume, a thank you letter. I learned how to interview, how to dress for an interview. I learned how to talk in an interview. And that also took a part in helping me to build my self-esteem, because I was able to take that information and get my first job as an uncertified home health aide. Shortly thereafter, my husband and I moved to the Big Rapids area so that he could continue his degree at Ferris State University. And that's when I first became involved with a Hope Network program in the Big Rapids area. I reached out to them to get my CNA certification, and I graduated their program with a 98% overall, and I became a CNA. And I worked for about 3 years in a nursing home, and then I wanted more, so I went to Everest Institute and I obtained my medical assistance diploma, and I graduated with honors. But I wasn't able to find a job as a medical assistant. Turns out there were other plans. I got a job at a hospital, at the local hospital, as a CNA, and at that hospital I was forced to face all of my fears that held me back from being a nurse. I had so many fears. What if I freeze up? What if my mind goes blank? What if I don't know what to do? What if I can't do it? And so working at the hospital, my very first code was a 4.5-year-old drowning victim. That was my biggest fear. The first time I'm going to have to do CPR is going to have to be on a child. And what if we lose them? And what if it's my fault? And so for 2.5 hours, we worked on this 4.5-year-old child, and the doctor did eventually have to call the time of death. But what I found was that my mind didn't go blank, and I didn't freeze up. And I knew exactly what I needed to do to be a part of that team to try and save that child's life. And every single code that I went to after that was one more confirmation after another that nursing is where I belonged. And so about 3 months after working in the OB unit, I just had to become a nurse. I 3 years total at the hospital, but 3 months after working on OB, don't ask me what that was. But I just had to become a nurse. And so in August of 2015, I started at Ferris State University to obtain my nursing degree. From the moment I started, it was one obstacle after another. I felt like the forces in the world just do not want me to have this. My very first summer semester, I had a triple-paced anatomy and physiology course, and on my way into my very first exam, I got the call that my 17-year-old cousin had committed suicide. That same summer, my marriage went through some tribulation, and I was a single mother for 40 days with 3 children. One was a baby. And so it was just one thing after another. My husband and I took on a special needs child in my first semester of the clinical sequence of the nursing program, and we didn't know he was special needs at the time that we took him in, but we quickly found out, and that gave us more challenges while I was trying to obtain my nursing degree. Then in the very last year of nursing school, I found out that I was running out of my funding. I had no more. My scholarships were gone, grants were gone, maxed out of my lifetime Pell Grants and student loans. The engine on my car went out. The special needs child that we took in, because he was special needs, it caused an increase in medical bills and trips to doctors and psychologists and all of those things. And so, long story short, we were broke, and I had no way to finish my last year of nursing school. And so that's when I reached out to the Hope Network program once again to see if they could help me finish my last year of nursing school. I was so close. And that's when I met Greg. And they were able to help me finish my last year of nursing school, and I graduated Fair State University in August of 2015 with a 3.4 GPA, and I currently work as a fully prepared bachelor's degree nurse in the mental health field, and I work with patients who suffer with substance abuse and mental health disorders at Pine Rest. And so every single day, I get to work with people who are in situations similar to the one that I was once in, or worse. I get to show them what they're capable of doing if they're willing to start making different choices in their life. I get to do that because of programs like what Hope Network provides. Without this program, and you guys have to understand, it wasn't the tiny bit of money that they helped me with in my last year of nursing school. It was the CNA courses. It was learning how to write a resume, a cover letter, a thank you letter, learning how to successfully interview for a job. All of those things had a part in developing my self-esteem, in believing that I was capable of achieving the goals that I really needed and wanted to achieve for myself since childhood, but never truly believed that I could. Every worker that I came into contact with never told me that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. Everyone else told me everything that I probably couldn't do because statistically speaking, I shouldn't have been able to do those things. Hope Network never once said I couldn't do those things. Not only did they encourage me to do what I wanted to do, but helped me financially to actually be able to make my dreams a reality. Without people just like you doing the jobs that you do every single day, I would never have gained the confidence and the self-esteem that I needed to continue into the nursing field, let alone reach out for the money to get it. So it is for that reason I come and I stand before you today. I share my story with you so that you understand the impact that you have on the lives of so many people out there. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for the jobs that you do every single day.